Alright then guys, so as I've said in the title, this is another great painting tip for you. This is one I'm starting to use more and more myself. So what I do is I'm going to show you a little method of painting whole miniatures and how to make the process quicker and maybe make them look slightly better. So the first thing is I've mixed up this heavy wash of, I've got a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of star blue, which is going to send this colour a sort of greenish colour, and then I've mixed quite a bit of retarder in, which I find this is the best way for me to make washes. It helps the paint flow and it helps settle in the recesses. And we've got this sort of really dirty muddy brown, greeny brown colour, which is exactly what I'm after. And I've added a little bit of water in there as well. Now this whole tip is all about underpainting. So and it's about the type of model you're painting as well. So this model here is the 𝐵𝐔𝐾𝐒 from STL Miniatures. And I've already sort of sprayed in black and then zenithalled in a sort of greyish colour. But the whole nature of this model, I want them to be, you know, like an undead character, very sort of deadish, grubby looking. I don't want this to be a mass of bright colours. So I'm going to add this wash sort of all over really liberally. Maybe I want it a bit darker. We're going to add a little bit more black into that. Try and get a bit of a darker shade colour. And yeah, I'm literally just going to paint this all over. Like I say, it's very thin, it will run into the recesses. And I've got a nice big old synthetic brush that I'm using here. You don't want to use one of your nice sable brushes for this. And all I'm doing is because this is going to dry as a wash, it's going to very much settle in the recesses and it's going to do a lot of the shading for me. But I'm then going to come in with a couple of other washes, which I'll show you soon, of some other colours I want to add in. And this is where the underpainting will come into its own, by mixing up these washes and thin colours. What I find it does is when you get your underpainting and your shades and colours all over, you know, sort of roughly how you want them, it then means you don't have to come back and spend a lot of time base coating and establish colours, because I will paint most of my colours just straight over this as mid-tones or highlights. So I'm sort of cutting out, this is cutting out one of the large parts of the process for me, in the fact that I'm not going to have to spend a lot of my time establishing base coats when I'm establishing these underpainted tones and colours, which I can work my other colours from. Yeah, and I've been using this quite a bit in my painting lately, and I find it really does, it very much speeds up the process of painting a miniature, but it also helps to set the underlying tone of colours that you want to use. So like I said, for instance, this model, he's not a bright, cheerful, you know, jester type miniature. He is a very dark, grubby, very earthy tones, possibly type of character. He's the 𝐵𝐵𝐾𝐒. He lives in an undead environment. So it sort of makes sense to try and get these tones in this model that will reflect what we're going to paint later on. So for the next stage, I picked out medium blue and violet red. And once again, I've mixed these down very much as washes stroke heavy glazes. And I'm just going to go over some of these areas. Like as you can see, it's very thin, this colour. And I literally just want to add some tints of colour in certain places, like the inside of his leg cloak here, just to get some different nuances of colour in certain places. None of these colours are going to stand out very much, but they're going to make that little bit of difference when we paint the model fully at the end. They're just going to add those little hints of just nuances. They're just nuances of colour. And like I say, because I'm just painting these on very loose, very thin, they're not going to suddenly stand out as these big blocks of colour. And as you can see, this is already adding this nice bluish tone to the underlying colour, which is very much a muddy, greeny, bluey grey, greeny grey. And it's just going to give me that nice base. You know, something that I just want to show through when I paint the underlying model, the overlying model. And like I said, all of these colours now are going to be, in my eyes, I'm going to unify these colours with using this, what's underneath that I'm painting now, as my base colours. So I'll be very much, there's not much on this model that I'm going to add an actual base colour to. I'm just going to be painting my actual colours, you know, my midtones and my highlights over the top of these colours. You know, and that way I'm going to keep that look and feel that I'm creating right now throughout the model. So now we'll switch over and we'll add some of this red violet to a couple of places, and again, nothing too heavy, just glazes, washes, tones of colour. And these are just going to add to, these are just going to add that little bit something to, especially to the skin. I want the skin to be fairly deadish, but it's nice if it's got a little bit of blood in it. And this will certainly help to bring some of that out. So there we have the underpainted completed, guys. And as you can see, I'm not aiming for perfection or smooth blends or anything in this case, and I'm not even finishing any element on the model. But I'm really pleased with the little shifts in colour that we have in certain places. And I'm going to try and use these when I paint the model. For now, I really like, it's not quite fully dry yet, but the little blue tones, the little pinky red tones, you know, a lot of those I'm going to paint over. So we're going to lose a lot of that. It's not going to stand out as blue and pink. But we've got this underlying very dirty, grubby tone. But now we've got some interesting little different tones that I can play with as I'm painting. So I'll come back in a second and we're going to flip through a little portion of time here and I'll show you the finished model and see what we came up with. So here is the result of what came out from the underpainting. So what I've actually done here, so from all the underpainted, I used it as base coats. And everything I've painted on here, I've really painted mid-tones only and highlights. So I've done no further base coating, what we would call base coating, anywhere on the model. So this is a good way to sort of paint if you want to paint and keep tones and colours, and certainly with keeping deeper shading in certain areas. And the base, I pretty much did the same. I wet blended 2 or 3 colours on here and then just used those colours to build up from with other colours. So there you go, guys. There's another good tip for you. I hope that helps, and hopefully you can try that out yourselves. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time for another Brushmaster video.